we're going to move on to our 6.11, our 11 a.m. item, public hearing, consideration of agreement for the purchase of real property located at 16540 State Highway 175 in Cobb, and B, consideration of resolution accepting and consenting to recordation of a grant deed. Director Ewing, welcome.
Well, good morning, Lars Ewing, Public Services Director. So in February 2023, your board granted conceptual approval and appointed a negotiating team for the property that's referenced there for the purchase of that property for a future park. For some background that was discussed back then to the board, but it's worth retelling briefly here. The Cobb area is the only, if not one of the only, if not the only general plan area in the county that does not have a community park. So there's an ongoing pursuit of that, or at least an ongoing desire for a park up in Cobb. That's referenced in their, I believe it's a draft area plan, but it's also a pursuit that's emphasized in the draft Parks, Recreation, and Trails Master Plan that we just received. So it's supported through that. It's been identified as support through a lot of public outreach, and so we pursued that. Board approved that location, the property, for a future park. Since then, after the conceptual approval, staff worked on a variety of things. We secured a preliminary title report, an appraisal. It was appraised at $390,000. We had a septic inspection, a building inspection, hazard tree assessments, removal of abandoned vehicles, and the result after all of that was the acceptance of a $300,000 offer by the county. The owner accepted that offer, and I want to thank Celia Hoberg in Public Services. She's in the audience here. Her background as an escrow officer in property acquisitions was, it was just immense. So can't thank her enough. After that time, and it will concurrent to that, from June of 2023 till now, there are a few other items to point out. We do have a CEQA notice of exemption and a general plan conformity for the acquisition, and the acquisition alone. That does not include the actual development. Those are separate actions. We had tribal consultation with Middletown and Big Valley Band of Pomo Indians, just at a very conceptual level. Again, not for the actual design. But just to start the conversation. We also have a concept plan for potential park development. Again, just concept only at this point. So if approved, if the purchase is approved, moving ahead, we Public Services would initiate an additional public outreach process to develop both an interim and a long-term use plan for the project. The funding that your board appropriated was $1 million, and with this purchase plus ancillary costs that we have closing costs and appraisals, other things that I mentioned earlier, we have somewhere in the range of $650,000 to $670,000 remaining for the project, which will not go to full construction. We still have planning, environmental studies, design to do. So the intent would be to get to a point where we can open it to the public with the funding that we have. That would be the phase one, enough that we would likely have infrastructure in place to use the park, some trails, and then the phase two work. It's my hope that we can secure grant funding for that. There are a number of grant programs available for park development. While there has been recently a big push for that and a lot of funding for parks through Prop 68 at the state, there are other avenues that we can pursue for that. So for that, the follow-up development, it's my hope that we can pursue external funding. And it's worth mentioning, continuing from there, tribal consultation and maintenance is another thing to touch on. The project is in an area, the property is in an area where we don't have a maintenance yard. So there will be a maintenance impact, which comes with annual costs. I'm pretty confident that we can address that with our ongoing operations budget that we have now. And if we identify the need for additional funding, then I would be discussing that with admin and how we can work that out. So it's my recommendation that we move ahead with the purchase. Happy to answer any questions if they're detail-oriented with respect to the acquisition. We certainly have a good team over here and Celia in the audience to help me out. So I'll hand it over to the board.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Supervisor Pyska.
Well, thank you so much, Lars. This has been a big push, and Celia is such a rock star. You are so awesome. Your team is amazing. This really has been the vision for a long, long time. Going way back, decades, people have been trying to figure out how to get a park in Cobb. And so the time is right, and the resources are there, and the property was identified. And really appreciate you coming so many times to do outreach work with the community. You gave up a lot of nights and weekends for that, to be in the places where people gather and get their vision. So I'm really excited for this to unfold.
Great. And I'm glad you were looking at Celia when you said that. She really was the workhorse behind it.
Supervisor Green.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Going to be excited to support this. I did spend a little time scrolling right now just because it wasn't attached to this item. I assume the minutes of the June 8, 2023 Planning Commission meeting does reflect what's stated in the summary and the staff memo that they did make findings of conformity with the general plan and also found it to be categorically exempt from CEQA. I just want to note that's not presented with this bundle today, so all I had to rely on was the summary and the staff report. Again, I haven't found the minutes, but I did find the agenda item, so it looks like everything's in order on that, so thank you.
Great.
Mike Shaletto, is that the right name?
Oh, yes.
I'll never forget because I agree 100%. Parks is economic development, and it's what attracts people to want to live in areas, and not having one is definitely a disservice to attracting people to wanting to build, invest, and be in a community. So this is great news for that area. I think every community deserves to have its little green space to enjoy and get away from, and so looking forward to seeing how this pans out, how this develops.
Great. Well, thank you. And on the note of Mike Shelato I should say, not or, but parks as an engine for the economy. I referenced earlier the Parks Master Plan, the Parks Recreation and Trails Master Plan that's in draft format. So in the next few months, you'll see, the board will see that going through a public review period, going through presentation with the board. So we're coming to the completion of that plan, which is not a part of this item, but certainly worth referencing, and you can keep it on your radar in the coming months.
I did try really hard to see if there's a way to directly connect to the trails and bogs, but it's just it's
You don't have to worry about that. We got it.
It's not going to be perfectly direct. It'll be an indirect connection.
We're working on that with property owners.
So, any further comments or questions? Open it up for the public. Celia, do you have anything to add?
Good morning. My name is Robert Stark. I've lived in Cobb for 49 years. I was the general manager of the Cobb Area County Water District for 35 years, and a very active member of the community. And I would just want to let you know that we just thoroughly support this in the highest degree, and we really appreciate Jessica's work on this. I can tell you, in the 49 years that I've lived there, there's never been a time that someone hasn't said, geez, if we only had a park, if we only had a place. Yeah, we got Bog State Forest, good. You got trailer trucks coming and going, you got dust, you got all those things. We need a place for kids to go sit on the swing set and do their thing, and for families to go, and for people to walk their dog and all that good stuff. I just want to tell you that I'm the president of the Lions Club, and as a member of the community is very enthusiastic about this, and we endorse your positive actions on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further comments on this? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board from action.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the agreement for the purchase of real property located at 16540 Highway 175 in Cobb. Two or one? And I'll offer that.
On that same recommended action, if your board may add and authorize the board chair to sign.
And authorize the board chair to sign.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries,
And I'll offer the resolution.
and the resolution's been offered.
Supervisor Crandall.
Aye.
Supervisor Green.
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska.
Yes.
And Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye. Thank you very much. Milestone.